Everybody rates things on a scale from 1 to 10. It's like the fastest way to evaluate something. That's how critics review games or movies, and how doctors ask you to rate your pain. Everybody understands the 1 to 10 scale. I mean, some people choose to rate out of 5, and a few publications go with 1 to 40, but those aren't as easy to immediately recognize as 1 to 10. People expect everything to come in 10s. Personally, I think 1 to 9 would make the most sense. That way 5 is exactly in the middle, representing precise mediocrity, while there are 4 numbers on either side of it. 1 to 9 seems balanced, but I've been using 1 to 10 for longer than I can remember. Even when I'm not reviewing games, I give them a rating so I can tell my friends how good it is. Like Xenoblade X, 8 out of 10. Bloodborne, 9 out of 10. Metroid Other M, 4 out of 10. I've actually put a lot of thought into rating things out of 10 because this is interesting to me. So I drew the scale in MS Paint, and today I show you how it works. 0 is how I would rate a game that isn't a game, like a cardboard box, or the Great Wall of China, or this bottle of almonds. They don't even begin to be a video game, so I don't give them any credit for doing so. 0 out of 10. 0.5 is like for something that debatably counts as an audiovisual game, like an app, or a DVD menu, or this thing. Or that Genesis game Crazy Bus, where all you do is make a bus move on the screen and you can't win. I mean, you can find some way to play with these things, but do they even fulfill the definition? You might as well just play with a flashlight. 1 out of 10 is what I call hot garbage. That's the minimum rating I would ever give a real video game. Personally, I've played very few, if any, games that I would call 1 out of 10. I avoid these like the plague. Half of the games reviewed by JonTron or AVGN would be 1 out of 10. Nobody even wants to beat these, they're so useless. These are shovelware. Sometimes I give review scores that end in a 0.5 for when something seems between one rating and another. Like when a game is better than a 9 but not quite a 10, it deserves 9.5. I don't go with any other decimals. Anyway, 2 out of 10 is unfinished. Like, there's something decent in here, but clearly the developers didn't give it their best effort. With any more passion in their job, they could easily have brought it up to a 3. Here for my example, I have Sonic Boom. I must admit that there is some entertainment value to be gained from Sonic Boom with its colorful, above-average graphics, controls, voice acting, and characters, but generally speaking, it's nearly unplayable. It's miserable, glitchy, and unpolished. It's almost as bad as it could get, while I still admit that there's some appeal. The developers of 1 and 2 out of 10 games don't seem to care whatsoever. 3 out of 10 is very bad, or in other words, terrible. This is pretty self-explanatory. A bad game is mostly dissatisfying, but a very bad game is enough to actually hurt my feelings. I find 3 out of 10 games to be the most offensive, because they kind of rope me in with something I want to care about, but they're asinine and infuriating. Skyward Sword is my go-to 3 out of 10 game because I've played it multiple times, and it's actually managed to make my life slightly worse. 4 out of 10 is just bad. Like, not really bad, but bad in general. 4 out of 10 is a little worse than mediocre. I'd never recommend a 4 out of 10 game. It fails at whatever it's trying to do, and it feels like a chore to play. You'd rather just procrastinate, as if the game is homework. 5 out of 10 is a perfectly mediocre waste of time. There are some good parts and some bad parts, but they cancel each other out, resulting in a dull experience. It's not very entertaining or enriching to play or watch a 5 out of 10 game. Sonic Unleashed is my example here, at least the Wii version that I played, which has decent day stages, tedious night stages, and a story not worth thinking about at all.
Looks good, don't it? That there chocolate chip cream sundae supreme is the pride of the city. The whole world can come tumbling down, but they'll still line up for a taste.
Hey!
6 out of 10 is for good games that just pass the bar. For a game to be 6 out of 10, that means that 40% of it is bad, However, the experience is still mostly positive. I can enjoy these games and respect them while recognizing their numerous flaws. I once called Metal Gear Solid a 6 out of 10 for its heavy flaws, but it still gave me a lot to think about, and over time, my admiration for it increased, so I now think of it as a 7. I know Dead by Daylight is a bad example here, since it's the only multiplayer game on this image, but I honestly couldn't think of anything else that I consider an exact 6, at least not that I've played that's single player. 7 out of 10 means very good, or great. A 7 out of 10 game still has heavy flaws, but overall, it's pleasant enough to make up for those flaws. This is the bare minimum for a game that I will call great. I haven't played Earthbound in years, and if I replayed it now, my opinion might improve. But I've long regarded it as a 7 out of 10 because it's hecking fun, despite repetitive, unpolished gameplay, and story scenes with very awkward translation. 8 out of 10 is very similar to 7, but the difference is that I highly recommend 8s. An 8 out of 10 game is a must-play. That's not to say that I'm going to force everyone I know to buy every game this good, but if you're looking for a game of a specific genre and/or platform, then I'm going to point you to one of these. I generally don't recommend games below 8, so if you're looking for a fun, story-driven action-adventure game with puzzles, I'm going to tell you to play Metal Gear Solid 2. If you want an extremely fun, classic-style RPG with a good story, I'll encourage you to play Bravely Default. I only call it must-play because that sounds better than highly recommended. 9 out of 10 is what I call a masterpiece. This is a game that will go down as a classic for its genre and platform. People will look back at it fondly. It does almost everything right, except it does have its frustrating moments. My example is Super Metroid, a revolutionary platformer, but the difficulty is inconsistent. Some of the bosses are too easy, and some are too hard. The game's also too short, and it has some kind of janky moments. With a 9 out of 10 game, I really love it, but I see something that's holding it back. 10 out of 10 is a quintessential game. Like, okay, if you're a big gamer and you haven't tried this one already, then what are you doing? It's almost redundant to recommend a 10 out of 10 game, because everyone's heard of it already. I'm talking about Portal 2, Mario Galaxy 2, Mario World, Metroid Prime, Minecraft, Super Smash Bros., Undertale. If someone hasn't already played this game, they at least know about it, and they're probably thinking about trying it. 10 out of 10 games are definitive of their genre. They're the golden standard. This is what you compare other games to. All sandbox games will be compared to Minecraft. All 2D platformers will be compared to Mario, and etc. I admit that, from someone else's perspective, I may be too generous with my 10s. I gave a 10 to Mike Tyson's Punch-Out!, Final Fantasy VII Remake, and Doom 2016. But I don't actually think they're perfect, I just think they're as good as it gets. 10 out of 10 games are always a true work of art. And I don't know how to end this video, but that's what my rating scale means in a nutshell, so bye!